Good morning, everyone. See if I can make this work. It's raining. It's not even 4 in the morning. It's probably 3:30. My fingers are filthy. Just have to deal with it. And I just put a sack in the newest Wahl Sharp pen I got on eBay. Now this pen, I thought I could sense with my rose-colored eyeglasses that the nib was going to be as good as it is. And I could see that there was a longish tine, and if it was here it would be less flexible, but because it was extra long, I had a sense that it would be a nice flexible nib. Where's my focus? I don't know if you can see anything other than my dirty fingers. But the problem that it had, which is common or not uncommon with these pens, is the gold fill section had a lot of corrosion up here, and big chunks of gold were missing from the exterior metal plating, gold-plated covering that this thing has. So what I did was I took the nib and feed out, and then I filed, went like this with my section, and I filed most of the corroded area off. I can see that I could have done a couple more swipes on the file to make it completely flat and uncorroded, which I might still do. But the corrosion happens because the moisture of the ink and the corrosiveness of what ink is made of, perhaps back in 1922, eats away at the metal. And it's a problem that all metal sectioned pens have. And there's a lot of people these days that make modern pens using metal sections. And I think that might be a problem down the road. Maybe with stainless steel sections or something it won't be a problem, but back in these days it was a problem. And so the pen is now that much shorter than it would have been had I not done that, but it's relatively smooth. I can see that I could probably go back and do it some more. The nib and the feed were really tight. It took a long time to yank them out, and to reset them was a trauma as well. I think the nib and feed probably could go back into the pen another, 1/8 of an inch or so, and it wouldn't be a problem. But I actually see that this is working fine, and it's not hitting the inner cap, so it's good to go. Now, because there's so much feed and nib sticking out of the pen, it might write a little wetter than it would if it was shoved in a little bit more. There's a little balancing act that one can experiment with. But I think that this pen I may end up using for drawing rather than calligraphy. I don't know. We'll see. And when I'm out in the field drawing, I really sort of like to make sure that I don't skip. I don't want it to skip at any time for that matter, but having a wetter nib might work better for me in some cases. Initially, I had thought that this pen and this pen were the same size, and I thought I was going to do a little nib switcheroo, a cap switcheroo, because this cap doesn't screw on. The threads don't mesh, but sometimes if you switch caps, they end up working just fine. Both on each pen, they engage and they work. But this is a number 4 sized pen, and this is a number 3 sized pen. So the diameter is not the same. This is the pen I got next to last. These are my 2 most recent eBay purchases. And this one has a very, it has the wrong nib in it. It has a Waterman yellow nib, which is made for lefties. So this is really a good one for sketching as well. Because it's made for lefties who write with a hook, you can push it around and aim it in the wrong direction and apply some pressure without it screwing up anything. It's really a nice, I don't know if I'd like it for calligraphy because the fine isn't fine enough, but for general writing and also for drawing, it's really, really smooth and nice, and has a rubbery feel to it. There's a sharpness that I miss in it because of its rubberiness. It's rounded nib, but this one hits the paper in such a way that it gives me more feedback. It tells me things. My pen talks to me. This one talks to me more. This one whispers and mumbles in its smoothness. It's a little harder to control in a way. This one has a sort of, it doesn't do this, but it sort of feels like it does. It bites into the paper and it's making a little furrow. If you're a yachtsman, this pen feels like you've got your keel, your centerboard down, and you're cutting through the water with a certain direction in mind. This feels like you pulled the keel up and you're sliding more on the top of the water. And if you're a yachtsman, you'll understand immediately what I mean. Maybe it's like skis and snowboards. Skis, because of their shape and their length, and there's 2 of them, these keep you aimed going forward. Whereas this is the, what did I just call them? Snowboards. You can go sideways on a snowboard, and it looks like you can do more things on a snowboard. What just happened? So both pens are completely different in how your hand moves around the page. This one, again, I would feel perfectly at ease to do gesture drawings with the model, and he or she is posing just a certain way, and I'm getting the backbone and the hips and the legs and the whatever they have, those naked bodies, and I can just slide around and sort of feel the the movement. This one, I would use this pen. What did it do? It just skipped. This one, this is shellac on the paper that I used to shellac the sack onto this thing. So maybe I slid into a shellac puddle. This one, I can push it around, but it doesn't want to go in the wrong direction, as most pens don't want to do. But it's a very different feel. This one I might. Boy, this is wet. This nib is wet. Maybe it's just a reflection that you see here, but I could probably shove that nib and feed in another 1/8 of an inch. But I'm doing some drawings tomorrow at the Mount Auburn Cemetery, and maybe I'll bring both of these pens with me. I know. I just told you I was going to select 6 pens that I would always, the same 6 pens that I'd always carry with me out in the field. This is one of them, because this pen has lots of little broken parts on it. There's a big chunk of cap missing. The end is missing. So if I lose this, if this pen falls out of my pocket when I'm riding my bike or something, and it gets run over by a bus, I will not, yes, I'll be sad, but I won't be as sad as if this pen fell out of my pocket and was run over by a bus. So should I stick with my plan or bring my newest pen and use that? I think maybe I'll stick with my plan. I can use my newest pen to draw something here at home at my desk. This pen also has of the two, these pens are roughly identical, but of the two, come on, let's get in focus. Now zoom in there. The one on the bottom has the horizontal lines going around the end of the cap. Where's my finger? Right here and here. And I like the sharpness of the pattern stopping. This version of the pen does not have that line, and there's something about the line that I find really sexy. It's really sexy. In the same way that a man wearing white tie and tails with a very starched white shirt and detachable wing collar is sexy. This is the same man, but in a white dinner jacket, which used to be a thing. You would wear a white dinner jacket, just waiting to have a glass of red wine spill on it. It's like, what are you thinking? Whoever came up with that plan. See, this just screws and screws and screws and doesn't ever engage. So I think of the two, this is my favorite style with those little bands. White dinner jacket. I'll leave you in the closet. Let's just compare. Shall we compare? Let's compare. Here's the same pen in silver. This was also a recent eBay buy. This does have those little bands that I just said I liked so much. It also has the bumped up lever on both of these, which maybe at the time they were doing the bumped up lever, they were doing this. And then when they stopped doing one, they stopped doing the other. Here's the pen without the bumped lever and without the lines. I suppose all I have to do is look in some fountain pen book and I will learn the answer to these musings. And in black and white, it'll say something like, in 1927, the Wahl Eversharp Company changed their design, but it's much more fun to just imagine what the truth is rather than to actually figure out what the truth is. You can imagine that this pen is being used in the cabal that the deep state and Democrats do when they're cannibalizing children after they've been abused by the pedophiles. Is that what QAnon is telling us? We are doomed, by the way, not just the United States, but the entire planet. But we're leading the way. We're marching down toward doom. Why are you skipping? Probably because it doesn't have any ink in it. I'm dipping things here. So, yes, on the things. The jury's out on this raised lever thing because it does seem a little clumsy in the same way that a Conklin crescent is clumsy. Like, why? What is the point of that? I imagine it was to make it stronger. In some way, but I have a feeling, again, this is not based on facts, that this was the earlier version and the flat lever was the later version. But I could be entirely wrong about that. And you people will correct me, I'm sure. QAnon. Why didn't you tell Biden about Antifa? Antifa are people that are anti-fascist, as we all should be. We all should be anti-fascist. It's an adjective, not a noun. QAnon is a noun and not a proper noun. Here, I just dipped it. But I did fill it, so it shouldn't be skipping. But this piece of paper I've manhandled. Got my finger juices on it. Yeah, our fingers have juice. I read it online. Now, the oils on our fingers will transfer to the paper and cause a resist for the nib, for the ink. So you stick your finger right there and press down. Your ink will stop writing at that point. And I know if I tried to do it right now for you, it probably wouldn't work. I'm just feeling right here, right there is this little ding. It is a ding. I can feel it with my finger. It's a little burr of gold. It's the flaw in the Navajo rug. So, there you go. I'm happy with this pen, very happy with it. Happy that I was able to improve its looks by working on it, filing it down. Now, let's pretend, yes, I already know the answer. If I had to put red and black ink, these were the only two pens I had in my entire life, and I only wanted to write or draw in red and black ink, which pen would have the red ink and which would have the black ink. If I was a businessman, I might not follow this. If I was an accountant. Well, the black goes in the monochrome pen, the red goes in the gold pen, obviously. And if I was doing this is the wrong pen, this is the one these were the only two. Anyway, the red would go in the gold and the black would go in the silver. There's just no other way around it. I think it's in Leviticus somewhere. Thou shalt not put red ink in your silver pen because that's an abomination. If I was doing my books, it would be the red ink. The pen with the red ink would be used much more often than the black ink pen. And what was the term for using red ink on a manuscript? Yep, you got it. Rubricate. Rubricate. So I would be rubricating more than I would be, what's the Latin word for black? Writing in black ink. Write your answers below. Rubricate. There's in noiricate, is it Latin or French or Spanish? What is it? Tell me. Write your answers below. What would be, if rubricate is writing in red ink, what would writing in black ink be? Write your answers below. We'll have a little contest. Don't look it up. Come up with your own idea. Is this still making me happy? Yes. Very springy little number 1 to pen nib. 150-year-old pen nib. 140. If I don't have ink in it. But zoom in. Very springy. Yum. I'm hungry. Bye.